What's up, traders? I got a special video here for you today. I developed an indicator that has helped me tremendously. It automatically draws order blocks, detects unusual volume in the markets, and I use it to work with order flow. If you can get this one thing right, and that is the directional bias, then it can help change your trading tremendously. So in this video, I'm going to cover that. I'm going to go over some trades that I took. And if you haven't already, there's a link below. If you're interested in this indicator, you can hop in the Discord. I'm going to be making it available sometime here next week. There's a ton of other valuable resources there as well. With that said, let's get into the video here now. I'll cover the indicator and some trades that I did take this week here. All right, before I go over what's on your charts here, quick disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is financial advice. Trading is risky. Most traders lose all of their capital. I don't make any promises or guarantees of anything whatsoever here. This is all for educational purposes. So on your screen here, you're going to see an indicator I developed. I developed tons of indicators, algorithms, and I'm soon going to be making all of these available to my Discord community. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hop over there and check that out. Now on your screen here, you're going to see some order blocks, some bullish order blocks drawn in green, and then some big green bubbles, some big red bubbles, some little red bubbles. So what I've done here is I'll just make this really simple. I've developed a volume indicator at the bottom of your screen here. And what it does is it looks at the previous day for New York volume per candle, whatever time frame you're on, the 1 minute, 5 minute, whatever the case may be. And then it also looks at the previous 5-day average volume. And then what it does from there is I can then go into settings and I can set my volume to about double this here to detect unusually high volume. And generally speaking, if there's a lot of volume in a particular candle, then that means there's potentially interest there in that particular level or that particular area here. So the way I use this here is I don't just simply jump into a trade when I see an order block and I see high volume. I'm looking for other confluences as well, and that's something that I cover again in my Discord community. I'm going to do that here, but I'm going to share with you a couple of them here in this video. But first, I want to talk about directional bias here. So this is today. This is October 24th. Now, I didn't take longs here. I wanted longs. I ended up having to go work on our rental property a bit here. So I missed out on this trade here. And I ended up taking these two shorts over here. But first, I want to talk about that directional bias here. And if you can get this right in your trading, you're halfway there. Okay. What I do is I use order flow. I don't just draw any random line on my chart and call that my liquidity level. Okay. I actually look at real order flow. And to do that, I look at Bookmap. So right here is Bookmap at about 9:30 this morning. And it is apparent where the draw is just by looking at the screen here. I think anybody can pick this up. Very basic. Now, it doesn't always work like this, okay, what I'm about to explain. All right. This is how I use it, and I know other people use it different ways. But what I'm looking here for is over here on the right-hand side of your screen. This is 9:30 a.m., okay? Do you see these red areas up here? All right. This is the NQ, and I'm not interested in MNQ. I'm interested in NQ because that's where the institutions are trading. And when they're advertising these large areas here, these large orders, okay, these are resting limit orders on the books. All right. This is an area where they may be trying to pull price so they can get their larger orders filled. So down here, right at 9:30 open, all right, immediately I'm looking at this and the draw is up to me. So I don't really want shorts here. We were trading in the all-time highs, but immediately at 9:30 open, I can see that. It's clear as day up here. So if I back this up here a little bit, you can see this, these resting orders up here. And if I scroll over here, you can see the price shoots right up. And if I come over to the indicator, it picked right up on that right here on this green bubble here. All right. Unusually high volume, order block drawn. Now, again, I don't just jump in here, and this is not meant to be traded this way with this particular indicator. So if I come out to the higher time frames here, okay, this lined up perfectly. If I come over here, this lined up perfectly with a 5-minute fair value gap, this large 5-minute fair value gap from data this morning here. And if I just draw it here, and if I just remove the indicator for a minute, you can see that 5-minute fair value gap here. So then what I'm doing is I'm hopping down to the lower time frames. I'm popping on the indicator here. All right, I'm coming down to the 1-minute time frame, and I'm looking for something to pull back into that area here with unusually high volume. You can see this first one over here, not a lot of volume in this particular candle, but tremendous volume here. So that would have been a potential area of interest for me with this particular trade. Unfortunately, again, I was away at a rental property renovating, so I didn't get a chance to take this here. So what I did take were these two shorts here today. Now, I want to come over to Bookmap to share with you why I didn't stay in these trades. I took them as scalps, all right? Because I knew from earlier this morning, looking at Bookmap, okay, coming over here, it's clear to me that the draw was up here this morning. So that was my directional bias for the day. Now, if I come over here, if I keep scrolling to the right, okay, there is something I want to point out here, all right? If I come all the way over here, there are all these little orders, and you may be able to notice them if I keep scrolling over here. All right, we get over this area, we can see there's still a lot of resting liquidity above. There's not much below, so I don't have any interest in shorts at all. I want longs. Now, again, I did take shorts because divergence set up for me, and that's one of my models that I trade. But again, I didn't stay in them very long. So when we get over to this area here, as price pulls down into this area here, this is what I call probing. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm going to point it out right here. All right. This was light probing earlier. Do you see these little ticks marks right here? All right. This is what I call probing. And as price is moving down, generally, price likes to come back up and try to feel these probes. I don't see it happening down below here on the screen. I see it here. So that means my draw is still up. This is about 10:30 in the morning. The draw is still up into this area here. All right. Again, not because there's just some random candle or some random line there. This is real order flow. This is a real potential draw. Now, I want to reiterate here, it doesn't always mean that we're going to get up to this area. Nobody really knows where price is going, okay? It's just an idea that we may try to come up here into this area, or institutions are trying to draw price up into this area and act as a magnet. So as we scroll forward here, you can see we dip a little further. All right, remember we got these ticks over here, this probing here. All right, we go forward here. All right, this is about 10:30. There was divergence here. I wanted that long there, but again, I wasn't there available to get it. And then over here, we go right up close in this area. We come over here. Now, look at this. This is what I want to point out here. All right, 10:55. Okay, this is something I teach in my course. This is something I share in my community a lot. All right, look at this right here. All right, this is what I call probing. So what does that tell me? If I look below down here, okay, we tap into this, become very close to this liquidity level here. We have all this probing happening up here. So I don't really want shorts down here because we're getting all this probing up here. The market may try to come back up into this area. And that's exactly what happens as we scroll forward. The market trails back all the way up to this area. You can see there's those probes. This is where we go. And we go right up into this area again where we had the higher liquidity levels. Okay. And then look at this, a bunch of probing right up here happening again. So still, if I'm actively trading at this point in time, all right, I'm not looking for shorts. All right. I have a long bias here. Okay. And I'm trying to go up and get these areas where price is probing. And then you can see tons of them start coming in here. And as we go forward, you can see it comes down, and then we just keep going here over, and look, price comes right back up and it grabs all of this, all those little probes that you can see happening here. Hey, right about here in the afternoon, this is where I did take my shorts because we had divergence set up, but I actually took these while I was at my rental property. So I was away from Bookmap at this time here, and I knew that the bias or the directional bias was up today. So I got in. We had delta divergence, which is a strong form of divergence, again, that I cover in my community as well. And I knew that I didn't want to stay in this long because the directional bias was up today. So that said, I'm going to go over the indicator a bit more here now and just kind of discuss what it shows. I'll just bar replay this so you can see it here. I'll just go start new and you can see what it does. It draws also a breaker blocks. It draws order blocks. And it draws the order blocks how I like to use the order blocks. So you can just see what happens here if I just kind of bar replay this out. You can see that high volume comes in, draws an order, short order block, another short order block. Now, again, I would be ignoring these here, okay? How I use this indicator, I don't just take everything. Because I'm trying to trade with real order flow. Now, another way that I like to use this is, you see how it's forming all of these large red bubbles right here in this area? All right. If price were to try to come above this area right here, all right, and retest this area, all right, this has a strong possibility of holding as a level because there's so much high volume right at this level of interest that we could do a retest and then continue on this way. I could say the same for down below because we have this high volume down here. All right. If this area were to break down substantially, we could get a retest and then come down to this area here. So if I back this up, you can actually see this. If I come back over here to the previous day, here again is another 5-minute order block where we had some unusually high volume come in, and then it continues moving up here. All right. And then I can go back to another day here. You can take a look and see what's happening. Now, on this particular day with the indicator, it had a short bias, so I was not interested in these longs, although there was a beautiful divergence set up here that I took on another model. But with this particular indicator here, if I had that short bias on, I'm looking at these shorts over here in this area. And of course, again, what I can do is I can just simply draw out boxes or areas right here around these large bubbles, as you can see. All right. And when price breaks through again, and again, when price breaks through this area, retest, we may end up going down. Same thing here with these large red bubbles. You can see eventually when price breaks through over here, we get a little retest and then we go up. All right. I like to use it in this way in some scenarios, but I like to use it when there's a lot of these large bubbles popping up in a cluster. I don't necessarily like to use it when there's just one, but when I see like 2 or 3 in the same area, when these levels are breaking right here, for example, this support, then it may turn into resistance. And of course, when these break here, this resistance may turn into support at a later point in time. So again, I can just keep on going back here and looking further just to get an idea of these here. You can see them unusually high volume here. This kind of went sideways today. You can see there was an unusually high volume short right here, potential short. But again, it all depends on what the real directional bias is for me that day with respect to the markets and how I would use this. So wanted to share it. Here, I have a ton more in the community, a ton of valuable resources there. Be sure to go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this indicator here. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or comments that you may have, and I'll talk to you soon.